And spawning into the bottom left-hand corner of our corner, we have the South Korean Zerg player, the Red Zerg representing Diamond Gladiators. It is SHIN. His new team, and spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the Blue Terran player from South Korea representing Shopify Rebellion. It is ByuN. Here we go. TvZ has arrived, and again, ByuN, he was very aggressive against Rogue earlier, and he had a very dynamic series. Again, things got very down and dirty and messy between ByuN and Rogue, and I'm curious if it's going to be similar here with SHIN. SHIN is also quite an aggressive Zerg player in his own right, does thrive in the mid game, but isn't too cheesy is what I will say. He can be aggressive, he can be fast as a player, but not necessarily all in. I do think they compare to each other quite nicely, actually, both ByuN and SHIN. I do think they're pretty comparable in skill. Again, I mentioned before that they both deserve to be in GSL. I remember it was like 2 seasons ago where SHIN didn't actually qualify. He didn't qualify for Global StarCraft League, which was wild. It was like 2 or 3 seasons ago. Despite the fact that, I mean, he is a pretty recent GSL finalist as well. I'd say recent, it was like 2 years ago, but recent in the grand scheme of things. That's a better GSL run than ByuN has had in the past 2 years. We don't have to talk about his finals with Maru. We don't. Don't worry about it, Bobby. Don't worry about it. It's fine. As ByuN is going to be opening up interesting with a Rax expand into a 2 Rax. As a reminder, ByuN, he did this against Rogue. I'm getting deja vu. For those of you that were here a couple of days ago, you would remember that ByuN versus Rogue, he went for a Rax expand into this very build. It's a reactor into a second Rax, and Rogue went for a Bane Bust. Rogue, he Bane Busted ByuN and killed him, and that's how Rogue qualified. That's how Rogue qualified for GSL. And the reason why is because ByuN, no SCV Scout. No SCV Scout, no Reaper Scout either. Very greedy build here out of ByuN, and Rogue did punish him. Here, SHIN is opening up standard though. Opening up standard, ByuN should get away with this. Should be able to get away. As for now, we're getting into our follow-up 2-on-1. Again, there have been quite a number of 2-on-1s as of late from ByuN. I think even Ryung did it yesterday as well. So it's a 2-on-1 setup. Now, the downside to this, of course, is that you have no map presence. I mean, ByuN hasn't seen anything. He has seen nothing from the side of SHIN. That's why it's so greedy to play like this. There's no Reapers, no Hellions either, no nothing. So ByuN is just blindly getting into his 2-on-1. But again, he shouldn't be punished for it. On the flip side, though, SHIN is free to drone. He's free to drone up to saturate his third base, to get into his Ling Bane, to spread his creep, to get into his Queen production. SHIN is looking quite comfortable, but things are soon about to change once ByuN moves out with his Medivacs. So the way this works here is that we're building up to 16 Marines, going to be hitting a timing with Stim, and with double Medivac production, as we should be going for an add-on swap here for the reactor on the starport. So Medivacs are on the way, the drop is coming. SHIN, up until now, he's free to drone. He's checking the natural, he saw the Marines, he's seen the lack of Hellions. There is a world where maybe ByuN is hiding the Hellions and it's going to be like a Hellbat push, but never mind, SHIN, he saw both Raxes. He saw both Raxes, he knows exactly what's going on. SHIN should be very well rehearsed with this defense. Interesting, going for a Baneling Nest first. That I was not expecting. So usually you would be able to go for a faster Evo Chamber into +1 Carapace, but SHIN is playing safe. It's a very safe response. This means that we are safe against a Hellbat all-in. As the Baneling Nest is a way to be secure and safe against that sort of thing. Overlord gets shut down. Ooh, SHIN is going to get supply blocked. ByuN is moving out. He's going to be dropping. He's going to be getting across the map. The Queen's able to keep up. Lings as well. SHIN shouldn't lose anything here. We dive on top of the Queens. We get one. Yeah, slow to react. SHIN late with that transfuse. Does bleed out a Queen. So far, only one Queen. And SHIN holds. From here, we can just drone. Third base is saturated. Should be working towards a fourth. We go. Lair is on the way. Evo chambers. Upgrades. Now, the upgrades for SHIN are going to be delayed because of the Bailey nest. Another Queen goes down. Once again, late transfuse out of SHIN. You can see that it takes seconds. You have very little time to react here to those Dim Marines. And ByuN is gaining value. Getting a Queen here and there whenever possible. We're going for a follow-up push. And, ooh, the follow-up here is actually a 2-base all-in. There is no third CC. It's a third Rax, which is amassing tanks and Marines. ByuN is all in. ByuN did this earlier against Dark. Did this against Rogue. ByuN has been quite fond of this build, at least during the qualifiers. He did this against Dark in ESL Open Cup Asia, the Grand Finals. I think it was 2 weeks ago. It's either this week or last week. We had ByuN versus Dark. Meanwhile, SHIN catching reinforcements, does get the tank. At the same time, ByuN wedging himself here in the goal base. 2 tanks in a beautiful position. And we've been bleeding out Queens. Remember that. We have been losing Queens time and time again. Ooh, plus transfuse. Really keeping the Queens alive. And SHIN is coming back for the surround. He's ready to collapse on this army. ByuN reinforcing with medevacs, but we're going in. The reinforcers, they're not here. They're going to collapse on the tanks. Good target firing on the Bailings. And the Bailings, oh, they barely do not connect. More Bailings are waddling in. The tank survives. And ByuN, he's snowballing out of control. He barely does make it here. Really good target firing on the Bailings. And all good surround from SHIN. And ByuN, he's doing it. He has done. He's broken the back here, broken the main army. Okay, we needed some better execution there from SHIN with that surround. Bailing speed kicks in, but we can just kite for days. Yeah, and ByuN, he has done it. No Bailings left, only Queens and a handful of Lings. And the third base has been compromised. And the 2-base all-in snowballing out of control. GG gets called, and ByuN takes game number 1. GG. Again, SHIN had everything on the line there. The game was made in that moment with that breakout that SHIN attempted. Did move out when he needed to, you know, before the reinforcements arrived. That is true, but again, unfortunately, the Bailings had a really awkward time engaging with the army. They were focused down by the tanks. They could not collapse on top of the Marines. We were lacking, I was expecting like a flanking army on the right-hand side as well, but we didn't have that. And SHIN, in the end, was not able to break that. On top of that, also was bleeding out Queens. He did lose a couple of Queens in the lead up to that all-in, and every unit counts when dealing with an all-in. You add 1, 2, 3 more Queens, and maybe it's a different game. Maybe SHIN holds. GG. And with that, ByuN takes a lead in this qualifying match, and we're getting ready for game number 2. It's going to be on Site Delta. Here we go. Maybe makes a few Bailings in that army that did this round. Yeah, that's what I mean. Specifically on the right-hand side, right? Where the 4th base was of SHIN. If we had some Bailings there, maybe. I mean, I'm sure that ByuN would have been targeting those Bailings down. But if he's forced to split up his tank shots, then maybe a couple of Bailings make it through. That's all we needed. We needed like 3 Bailings to make it past the tanks, to get on top of those Marines. maybe it would have been a different game. But regardless, we're getting into game 2. And spawning in the top left-hand corner of site Delta, we have our South Korean Zerg player, the Red Zerg representing Gaimin Gladiators. It is SHIN. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponent, we have the South Korean Terran player, the Blue Terran, representing Shopify Rebellion, leading the series 1-0. It is ByuN. We go. Yeah, ByuN needs one more game to qualify for GSL. SHIN needs to fight back here and now to force that ace match. But again, ByuN has been very aggressive as of late. That build that we just saw, that 2-base all-in, that's that 2-1-1 into a 2-base all-in. He did that against Rogue, he did that against Dark. He's been very fond of that. Not just that, but just in general, very aggressive builds. And now we turn the tables. ByuN going for a CC first on site Delta. Oh boy. CC first from ByuN. Is it going to be a CC first into a reactor? Into a 2-Rax? Into a 2-Rax into a third CC? We've seen this a lot from ByuN, and if you remember, this was the map where Rogue was able to all in and kill ByuN. I believe it was on site Delta. Or was it on Oceanborn? It was on one of the two. It was Oceanborn. Yeah, that's it. I remember. It was on Oceanborn where Rogue was able to all in ByuN. But yep, there it is. It's gonna be CC first into a 2-Rax. Are we gonna go reactor first as well? Like ByuN, he's been so greedy as of late. It's crazy. Yep, there it is. There's a reactor. No SCV scout, no Reaper scout either. ByuN has been very fond of this, at least in this matchup as of late, and SHIN is not going to be able to punish this either. SHIN is going for a standard hatch gas pull into a third base. There's no early Bailey nest, no additional gas mining. SHIN doesn't really have a way to be aggressive and to punish this. Aye. So really the question becomes, will SHIN be able to adapt to this style over time the way that Rogue did? That's the real question. As SHIN is moving out with his Link Scout. And this just happily joining up. Ling will confirm that the orbital's already done, that it was a CC first. Does get eyes on the reactor, but does not get eyes on the follow-up. It is going to be another 2-on-1, very similar build to what we saw in the previous game. Now, this doesn't have to be a 2-on-1 into another 2-base all-in. Doesn't have to be, but my eyes are on ByuN here. Basically, we have to keep an eye out on whether he throws down another Rax after the starport, or if he throws down a third CC. Meanwhile, Overlord's getting in position. Very important for SHIN to confirm. Behind this, SHIN going for roaches. Okay, we're spicing it up. I do like this. I think ByuN thrives when his opponent plays standard. If you're playing standard, then ByuN, he can cheese you, he can all in you, he can catch you off guard. ByuN has been, again, having fun with some very unorthodox builds as of late. So I do appreciate that SHIN, he's also trying to keep up with that quirkiness as well. Going to roaches. Diverting away from the north. Medevacs are on the way. Stim is about to finish. We're soon going to be moving out with our 16 Marine double medevac drop. Yeah, soon going to be pushing. SHIN back at home, droning, getting into a lair. Okay. Working towards his lair, working towards roach speed. Overlord comes in. Overlord, what did we see? We saw the Marines. We did spot the starport. We're aware of the 2-on-1. SHIN is amassing roaches. There's a third Rax. There is the one eBay. Bearing in mind, there is no second eBay. The reason for this is because we're going to be prioritizing +1 attack. This looks like a 2-base all-in. It looks like the same build. Same build as game 1. Oh boy. Yeah, tank production already. So ByuN is going for the 2-base all-in. Meanwhile, SHIN getting ready in his main. Has his queens. He does keep up with the initial drop. So far, so good. Now remember, with this initial double medevac drop, in game 1, ByuN, he killed 3 queens. Or at least 2, if I remember correctly. At least 2 queens. This time is going to be zoned away. SHIN bleeding out of Ling. Queens are still parked in the main. We're amassing on more roaches. Roach speed is on the way. With roach speed, we can then counterattack. Without it, we're stuck at home. ByuN still being active. ByuN still being active, rotating around in between the bases. SHIN is going to be able to keep up. So far, so good. And ByuN, instead of going for the 2-base all-in as he catches a queen, gets 2. Very nice pickoffs here. He's going for a third CC. Third CC is on the way for ByuN. I think when he saw the roaches, he knew that he could not break his opponent. I mean, he's got his tanks. He's still going for his push, but he's not doubling down. This time, he is transitioning out of this into a third base. We have a game. But this also shows how this build can be quite fluid, right? ByuN, he throws down a third CC, 2 more Raxes. We should be seeing a second eBay soon as well. Like ByuN, he's just transitioning from all-in into something more macro-oriented. Really nice. As a triple drop does slip into the main base, and we're out of position. Roach goes down, queen as well. We're going for the mineral line. Drones are falling. SHIN in a bit of trouble. 13, 14, 15 drones go down, an entire mineral line, and we take down the infestation pits. Fuck. ByuN, calm down. 18 workers and the infestation pit as well. Massive pickoff here by ByuN. And now he can take his third. Now this third base is late, so to be fair, ByuN had to get damage done. He had to kill some workers here. He did more than that though. A mineral line and tech, that was massive. So ByuN, he's back in this. He's very much so in this. He's getting to his meal production. Tanks are amassing, getting to 1-1. There's that armory. There's a second eBay to get into 2-2. And I love the way that ByuN is making use of this drop play, just because this is the weakness of Roach Ravager. Roach Ravager can be quite solid in head-on fights. It can bile down tanks as well, but where's the anti-air, right? There's no Hydras, there's no Mutas, there's no Spire, there's no Hydroden. Because of that, there's nothing to stop these medevacs. Like, they're even just parked outside the fort, and nothing can be done. There we go, Infestor is on the way. We're going to have a Fungal available. ByuN pushing on the left-hand side. The creep is receding. It's barely spreading at all out on the map. And the drop play once again pulling SHIN apart. Getting 7 more drones at the 4th. Ay, ay, ay. Is becoming a bit much. Here we go. ByuN is going to be committing, rallying everything across the map. How many tanks do we have? 5 tanks, 63 Marines. We don't quite have 2-2. It's just now starting. Double drop on the main base. Gonna be cleaned up. The medevacs at least, but we're getting queens. Queens are going down. At the same time, we do have a massive amount of Roach Ravager. And SHIN hold. ByuN dives in. Snipes a couple of Ravagers. Being forced back. Banelings are on the way. Baneling speed not done yet. ByuN, he is out trading SHIN, but we have a big Fungal. Massive Fungal of the army. We dive on forward. We get the tanks. 1, 2, 3 tanks going to be going down. SHIN is fighting quite far from creep. But it looks like we barely clean up the tanks, and only Marines are left. Oh, God. SHIN, he holds, and SHIN, he's got a decent drone count. He did lose a lot of workers this game. He's lost, what, 25 against the 0 SCV kills? But SHIN, he's drone back up to 80. He's remaxing on Lingbane Roach Ravager. Oh, but he's out of position once again. ByuN getting some drones, backing up. Unfortunately, SHIN only has the 1 Infestor. Yeah, there's only 1 Infestor for SHIN. So he only had the 1 Fungal. ByuN going for a split push. Again, only one active tumor here for SHIN. Barely any creep. Things are being forced back. We snipe a queen here at the third. Now, ByuN, thankfully, his tank count was reset. So with only one tank, ByuN actually can't gain that much ground. As long as SHIN is in position, he can hold. Speaking of, do you rally back? The Infestor, no! The one lone Infestor does get sniped. Brutal loss there by SHIN. Good pick up by ByuN. Behind this, we're getting into Vipers. Ultra Cavern on the way. Interesting choice. We do have melee upgrades. Trying to get into Ultras. Fifth base on the way. SHIN, he's maxing out. But again, this game still has been quite close. Even though SHIN is up in army supply, that is inflated supply with Roach Ravager. The suit does lie. Tanks are sieging up. We get within range. Fifth base is going to be denied. We deny the fifth. We bust on into the fourth as well. At the same time, drop towards the natural is going to be cleaned up. Ooh, big snipe. That hatchery is so low. ByuN could just go for the dive. It's risky, but there's no transfuse. We could snipe it. Ling around by it gets denied. And ByuN, he's thinking about going for a drop instead. As he has 3 medevacs filled up, we go for the surround. The Banelings! ByuN mid-commanding into the army. Bleeding out a lot of Marines, going for a triple drop into the main, but he loses every single tank as well. ByuN, the drop is getting damage done, but that was a bit of miscontrol from our Terran player here. Throwing away his Marines, losing all of his tanks, medevacs being cleaned up. He did snipe the Ultra Cavern, did deny kindness plating. That was a good pickoff, but SHIN is now maxed out on Lingbane Ravager. And ByuN, he's on the back foot. He's racing back home, consolidating his army. Okay, SHIN, he's got a choice. SHIN could try to move out and try to punish the southern base. Planetary's on the way. But for now, SHIN is keeping up with the drop. Parabomb does connect as well. Yeah, forcing the unload. Finally, we're dealing with some of these drops. You know, ByuN committing across the map. Oh, no creep whatsoever this base. It's so isolated. We have some Lingbane. Some Lingbane. But against 3 tanks. Yeah, ByuN, he won't be stopped. He's pushing forward. More reinforcements are on the way. We have a Blinding Cloud. Viper's coming in. We do have a Blinding Cloud available. Oh, the Viper gets sniped. The Viper gets sniped, but we get on top of the tanks. Tanks are cleaned up. The drop is forced out. And SHIN saves the base. I don't think ByuN saw it. Yeah, he didn't know there was a hatchery there. Let's see. The base does get up and running. SHIN, that's a kill, not a cancel on the hatchery, but he's committing across the map. He's not turning back. Is committing. Gets a lot of SCVs. Piles down the tank. We're running out of Lingbane, but the Roach Ravager is holding its own. Ooh, bit of friendly fire. SHIN forcing his way up the ramp. That army is heavily overstimmed. But we bleed out too many roaches. SHIN is forced back. Decent piles. But that's going to be a lot of Ravager kills. Expensive losses there for SHIN. Across the map, SHIN didn't just lose that northern base. The fourth goes down as well. SHIN knocked down to 4 bases. Heavily oversaturated. Meanwhile, ByuN, he's on 3. Has that southern planetary. We have a pretty comparable economy here. Now, SHIN finally has Ultras. It feels like he's been delayed so often. Losing the Infestation Pits, losing his Ultra Cavern earlier. But he finally has Ultras. He's made it. And ByuN, he's been going like purely Marine tank, and he's going for the Ultra Cavern again. The Jinx, the caster curse. I'm like, he made it. He finally has Ultras. Not for too long. Ultra Cavern gets sniped in the end. What you see is what you get. That's all we have. The tanks, they go caught unsieged. Marines as well. And again, behind this, there's no ghosts. We're just now starting Marauder production. It's just pure Marine tank. A very fragile army. We catch the Marines. There's not enough space in the medevacs. And SHIN, we can go for the planetary, by the way. The last mining base of ByuN. We're going for it. And there's no saving it either. Miles say connect. We get a full surround. SCV is gonna be going down. ByuN, he's rotating over. He takes a bile to the face. The fungal to the face as well. 25 SCVs go down. SHIN, he backs off, and SHIN now has the economic lead. SHIN, he's down to 3 ultras, sorry. 3 ultras taking a 5th base. Oh, he's rebuilt the Ultra Cavern once again. For like the 3rd time. He's got the Ultra Cavern. And again, ByuN, no ghost in sight. Doesn't have the economy for ghost production. But he can lift up his main. Lifting up his main, it's probably worth lifting up the natural soon as well. We're almost mined out. ByuN, he can sustain himself. He might be down to 23 SCVs, but we have mules, Bobby. We have mules. And the army supply is interesting. It's quite close between our players. I would say that ByuN has the more efficient army, but we also have ultras. We have ultras with all their upgrades. How many spellcasters? We have 1 infestor. Let's go. 1 fungal. Show us the fungal. Marines come in. They snipe the queen. Queen is going to go down. There we go. SHIN collapsing on the army. Coming in from behind as well. A bit of a delayed surround. But he does force it back. Takes down the tank. Slings. They come in from behind. Fungal on the army as well. And SHIN, he's finally done it. It was a brutal game. Very back and forth. And honestly, ByuN had so much momentum for most of this game. Then there was that one moment with some miscontrol where he moved commanded into the main army. Lost a big chunk of Marines, lost his tanks. That was the moment when he dropped into the main. And SHIN, he was able to bounce back. Leading out more ultras, but he takes down 18 SCVs. ByuN, he's down to 7 workers. The mules are good, but they're not that good. Even with ByuN holding on here, it doesn't matter. We can remax. We can rebuild. We deny the southern base. I mean, mules though. True. Okay, we're just muling as hard as we can here back at home. As ByuN moves out, Lings and even an Ultra move in. The Ultra's on 13 HP. And we collapse on the main army, and it looks like SHIN finally cleans this up. GG gets called, and SHIN will tie up the series 1-1. We're going to the ace match. GG. Oh my god. GG, well played. SHIN, he's bouncing back. What is concerning is that, again, ByuN was still very much so in control of most of that game. Did rely on some of his missteps and misplays for SHIN to bounce back, but we have an ace match. And I'm curious. I mentioned it at the start of the game. I was talking about how Rogue was able to adapt to ByuN, and because ByuN kept going for these greedy builds and greedy openers, Rogue eventually in the ace match in his series against ByuN just went for an all-in. He went for a Bane bust, if you remember. Oh, if you weren't here for it. Rogue, he went for a Bane bust, and ByuN happened to go for a CC first, into 2 racks, into Reactor first. No SCV Scout, no Reaper Scout, no nothing, and ByuN was caught with his pants down. And ByuN has been going for that very build these past 2 games. We just saw it. And Rogue is now aware that there's a trend going on here. So I wonder if that's going to lead to anything. I wonder if SHIN, now that he might be aware of that trend, is going to be trying to be a little bit more aggressive here. Can ByuN use that to his advantage? Can he open up safely instead? We can see some mind games. We could see some mind games as we're getting into the ace match. Let's go. Let's us go. Crazy to see TY and Rogue back. I mean, yeah, it's great to see them back. I mean, TY's been back for a couple of years now, to be fair. Rogue more recently, but I mean, they did both qualify for GSL. I mentioned before, Trap is back as well. Trap, he finished his military a couple of days ago, if not just yesterday. Did say he wanted to compete in StarCraft once again, but here we go, spawning in the top left-hand corner of Oceanborn, we have our South Korean Zerg player, the Red Zerg representing Gaimin Gladiators. It is SHIN. Going for a 15-15. Interesting. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponent, we have the South Korean Terran player, the Blue Terran representing Shopify Rebellion. It is ByuN. So, this opener by SHIN, going for a 15 hatchery into a 15 spawning pool, this is a very safe opener. This would be good if ByuN went for 2-Rax Reaper. If he opened up 2-Rax Reaper, then I would like SHIN's position here, especially if he goes for like a faster 3rd hatchery, for example. But outside of that, ByuN is free to go for, yep, CC first again. It's the same build. It's the same build. CC first into, I imagine, a 2-1-1 with a reactor, with no scout, with no Reaper. ByuN, for whatever reason, has been in love with this opener recently. Even though it's so risky and so abusable, but SHIN, he won't be aggressive anytime soon. ByuN is going to get away with this. Again, based on this opener, I do believe that SHIN assumed that ByuN was going to go 2-Rax Reaper. So he gambled a little bit, and unfortunately is going to be gambling wrong. With that, we have a safe build by SHIN. We have a greedy build by ByuN. ByuN should get away with it. Here we go. Now, off of a 15-15, as yep, there it is. It's 2-Rax. It's a 2-on-1. We should be seeing a reactor here once again. No SCV scout, no Reaper scout. If SHIN were to all in, ByuN would have no idea. That's what Rogue did. But what I will say is that a 15-15 can, or typically does, lead into roach play. Just because your gases are a little bit later, it can lead into roaches, and I would like to see another roach opener out of SHIN. We saw that that was able to deflect the all-in of ByuN and force ByuN into a longer game. In that longer game, there was still some downsides to going for roach play, just because ByuN was so active with his drops that it was just pulling SHIN apart time and time again. Drones are going down, the queens are going down, SHIN was being pulled apart. But he was able to survive against the all-in initially, so there's pros and cons here. He does go roach. We'll see. We shall see. As Lings are going to be moving out. Going to be getting across the map. Behind this, ByuN getting to his build. The Lings, they will confirm the initial opener. They confirm that the orbital's already done. SHIN is a D.Va enjoyer. But SHIN, he sees both Raxes as well. So he's fully aware that it's going to be a 2-1-1 build here by ByuN. And from here, we can just drone. We can drone up. 3rd hatchery's on the way. Really, I'm just curious if we... Interesting, as we pull out a gas for a moment there. We have not gotten link speed, but as I say that, there we go. Link speed just now starts. So we're not rushing into roaches. Link speed's on the way, and it looks like SHIN is going to be playing Link Bane. At least initially. We'll see if he takes up into a different direction. Meanwhile, my apologies. That is a tech lab, not a reactor. Wait, what? Banshee? That's a tech lab on the starport instead. ByuN mixing it up a little bit here. Okay, going for a 2-1-1 with Cloak Banshee. That is wild. So, just winding it back a little bit here, and I missed it as it was happening. With this factory, instead of going for a reactor, he made a tech lab. So we're going into Banshees instead. This means that there is not going to be a medevac timing. We won't have a drop available, but I believe ByuN is still going to push. I believe he's going to push. It does make this a little bit riskier because he won't have medevacs to sustain himself. It means that every stim will count and every stim will hurt him as well. We're going for Banshees instead. 3rd CC behind this is going to be a macro build here out of ByuN, rushing into a 3rd base. But what I love about this is that this Banshee is very unexpected. ByuN does this every now and then. Maru does this as well, which makes sense. They're both friends. But the reason why this is unexpected, we scouted the 2-1-1. It should be medevacs. We should not have spores. Spores should not be in position. Because of that, this Banshee can get a surprising amount of damage done. I mean, again, there's no reason to make spores. Banshee's the last thing on Shin's mind. So a very cheeky move. Technically this is inefficient, just because it means that these Marines are less potent because they don't have medevacs to sustain themselves, but if we're going for a longer game, or if we're going for our third base, I guess it's going to be fine here. And it might be worth it as the Banshee moves out and Cloak is done. And again, 0 detections available. There's no lair, there's no spore, there's no nothing. We're going to have free reign and drones are going down, one after the other. There's nothing that can be done. Spores are now being thrown down in a panic. We get 6 drone kills already. We get a 7th drone. We're going to be able to get an 8th, either in the main or the 3rd. At the same time, the Marines, they move out. They run into the Lings. Without Banelings, without Queens to support the Lings, they cannot engage. The Marines are pushing in only with 1 medevac. And that's going to be 10 drone kills. That's insane. 10 drones for 1 Banshee, by the way. Only a single Banshee getting 12 drone kills. And we get away. And ByuN gets away again. A very quirky build order here out of ByuN, doing the unexpected. Arguably going for an inefficient variation of this build, but it worked out because it went unscouted. That Banshee more than paid for itself. And now behind this, we're going for our follow-up push. Now with tanks. We shaved off some Lings earlier. We have plenty of fire to work with. Stim is done. 1-1, about to finish up in a couple of seconds in time for this push. A very strong 1-1 timing here by ByuN. And Shin is in trouble. How many Lings did we lose earlier? 14 Lings went down. I mean, look at the trades here. 12 drones, an Overlord, 14 Lings for 2 Marines. That is insane. And ByuN is sneaking up on that 4th hatchery. At the same time, Shin going for a counterattack. It's a 3rd base as his 4th. Gets hit as well. We get a couple of SCVs. Tank till siege. 5 SCVs go down. And Baneling speed does complete. Just in time. Shin can hold. We have more Ling Bane on the way. Shin confirms the army. He's aware. He is aware as ByuN. He does snipe 1 and gets 2 queens. Late reaction, 3 queens go down. Does take a Baneling to the face. We collapse on the tanks. Shin will hold, but that was not a bad trade from ByuN. Killing 3 queens. Here he backs off. Behind this, we're getting toward the rest of our Raxes. I believe that's going to be 5 Raxes for now. Oh, my apologies. That's going to be 8 Raxes. And this may just be a 3 base all-in. We're keeping our eye out for additional gases from ByuN. Banshee finally goes down, getting another 3 drone kills. That was a 15 drone kill Banshee, by the way. That's crazy. 15 drone kill Banshee. Aye, aye, aye. Unreal. But we're keeping an eye out for additional gases or a 2nd factory or a 4th CC. Without any add-ons on these racks, it's a 3 base all-in. It's a 3 base all-in out of ByuN. It's going to be an 8 racks. And it makes sense. I mean, he knows that Shin has been struggling here. Shin needs time to recover. Banelings, they do try to collapse. Tanks are in position. We're going for the 5th base. We force a cancel. And this drop is force a lift. We get some more drone kills in the main. Good target firing. ByuN is making his way towards the natural. Meanwhile, we're amassing a 2nd wave. And again, ByuN does not have any follow-up to this. Just amassing Marine tank and medevacs. Gets a queen. You see Shin getting ready to collapse in this position, but the position here is brutal. Yeah, the terrain working against Shin. Rolls in with his Banelings. Ooh, that was a lot of Banelings for 1 tank. And we save the Marines. Tank goes down, but that was a lot of wasted Banelings. And ByuN is pushing in with his 2nd army. Ignoring the 5th, going for the 4th. We're down to 4 Banelings. We have 6 more on the way. Yeah, and again, really good kiting here out of ByuN. There, shuts down the Bailings, and we're snowballing out of control. There's 2 Bailings left. GG gets pulled. SHIN crumbles under the pressure, under the 3-base all-in, and ByuN takes the series 2-1, qualifying for GSL. GG. GG, well played. ByuN snowballing out of control there. Again, that Banshee was the MVP of that game, killing 15 drones. On top of that, his follow-up bio push as well traded well against the Lings, and SHIN was just falling further and further behind. So to make the choice there to go for the 3-base all-in made a lot of sense. It was basically ByuN going for the kill, going for the throat, smelling weakness, and taking SHIN down before he could recover. GG. Congratulations to ByuN. My condolences to SHIN, as SHIN has been eliminated from GSL. He will not be a part of this season of Code S. Will not be a part of Code S here. So my condolences to SHIN. Again, I'm a big SHIN fan, and I said it coming into this, both players deserve to be in Code S. SHIN and ByuN should have been in Code S, but thanks to Rogue returning as a player, he was able to knock ByuN down initially, and Rogue was able to qualify instead. In a way, Rogue kind of takes the spot of SHIN as a Zerg representative in GSL. So a little bit bittersweet. It's great to see Rogue back, but it means that there's one less spot available in GSL, and that happens to be SHIN not making it through. GG. GG, well played. And with that, we have... Oh, my apologies. Wait, let me just double check this. I thought that this was the lower brackets. I assumed that this was the lower bracket here. I believe it was not. Okay, my apologies here. So I thought it was gonna be Bunny. Bunny was eliminated earlier by TY, and I assumed it was gonna be Bunny versus Classic, but no, it is gonna be SHIN with another chance. Okay, let's go. My apologies here. So as you can see, it was Classic versus TBD. I wasn't sure who Classic was facing off against, but it is going to be Classic versus SHIN. We have another chance, Pappy. But this is also brutal. This is even worse, actually. Oh my god. I was talking about how, like, in my mind at least, SHIN is like top 3 Zerg player. Classic is top 2 Protoss in Korea. Let's be real here. When it comes to the top Korean Protoss players, we have Hero, we have Classic, we have Creator, we have Nightmare. In my mind, those are the top 4. I know Stats has been doing well recently, but Classic, he's top 2 Protoss in South Korea. And for Classic to have to go against SHIN, this is the final qualifying match. It all comes down to this. Ay, ay, ay.